The entire capital city was abuzz with rumors that my sworn enemy, the Crown Prince, and I were simply a match made in heaven. On the day of the imperial marriage decree, I kowtowed frantically before His Majesty the Emperor, Uncle Ji, even if all the men in the world turned into dogs. I would never fall for Guxuan. Guxuan followed right after father. If you want me to marry her, I'd rather become a monk. But then I woke up and found myself 5 years in the future. Apparently, I not only married this guy, but also bore him 2 kids. A pleasant sandalwood fragrance permeated the air. When I woke up, I felt a slight metallic sweetness in my throat, along with thirst. While I was puzzled, a pair of hands reached over, both swift and gentle, wiping my face. But these hands were exceptionally cold, and the moment they touched my chin, I shivered and barely managed to open my eyes. She is awake, she is awake. Thank the heavens, her ladyship has finally woken up. Hurry and tell Imperial Physician Zhang and Imperial Physician Zhang outside. Qingyuan, quickly bring the ginseng soup. Qingyun, the princess consort, has awakened. Hurry and send someone to inform His Majesty, the Emperor. I could only vaguely hear quite a few footsteps and voices responding in the room. I was somewhat confused about the situation. How did I end up in Guanju Palace after waking up from my bedroom at the General's Manor? Moreover, I was surrounded by a circle of palace maids, all with worried and anxious expressions on their faces. While I was still bewildered, a young eunuch nearby hurried over and knelt down. Her Majesty the Empress, His Majesty has arrived. There were only 2 words written on my face. Confusion, Empress, that is not right. While I was stunned, a man dressed in bright yellow dragon robes walked in. It was clearly Guxuan. He grabbed my hand in one swift motion. He was wearing a bright yellow robe embroidered with a pattern of dragons soaring over the sea, with sharp brows and starry eyes, looking exceptionally cold. The look in his eyes as he gazed at me was the same as usual, no warmth, and his expression was somewhat gloomy. Oh my heavens, who set up this prank? Don't they know that if Uncle Gu finds out about this stunt, they'll be beaten to death? Besides, I am sworn enemies with this guy. Tricking me into being the Empress is just too absurd. I looked at the man in front of me with displeasure. I couldn't be bothered with him, so I shook him off directly and tilted my head up at him. Guxuan, you agreed to go see Tuanzi and Yuanzi with me, even if you didn't want to see me. You didn't have to jump into the lotus pond. The man in front of me had a rather cold voice, deep with a hint of magnetism. It was somewhat different from Guxuan's somewhat clear voice. It gave me a feeling that was both unfamiliar and familiar. I looked carefully at the man in front of me once again. I called out uncertainly, Guxuan, what are you calling me for? Why don't you just take a knife and kill me directly? I really can't bear to watch you hurt yourself again and again just to get away from me. I really can't take these days of tormenting each other anymore. Stop, stop, stop. What kind of chaotic opening is this? His Majesty the Emperor's aggrieved tone makes him look exactly like an abandoned large dog. What happened to the Son of Heaven? What happened to imperial dignity? How does he instantly turn into a simp the moment he sees his wife? And tormenting each other? I'd say you are the only one getting hurt here, Emperor Gu. I'll ship this lovesick fool first. I've never seen Guxuan like this before. As the Crown Prince, he has always been both sundir and outstanding since childhood. This humble, pitiful posture of his and those fragile, easily broken eyes, I've never seen them before. However, we are childhood sweethearts who grew up together after all. Seeing him like this, I don't feel very good either. But after I got a definite answer, my head heated up, and I thought all of this was an act put on by Guxuan together with others. I said directly, are you bored or something, teaming up with them to put on the show? Who made plans with you? Hearing me say this, Guxuan became somewhat anxious. Tuanzi and Yuanzi are sick. I thought for a moment and confirmed that I indeed had never heard these 2 names in my memory. These names are somewhat similar in style to De Huang's. Huh? When did you get other dogs behind De Huang's back, Shen Shikshu? The man in front of me suddenly got angry for no apparent reason. Looking at the palace maids kneeling all over the floor, trembling like quails, but I just felt confused. Guxuan, did you take the wrong medicine tonight? This prank is really boring, you know. Noticing something was off with me. The palace maid beside me, who had been keeping her head lowered, immediately grabbed my hand. Her Majesty the Empress, it might be because you accidentally fell into the lotus pond today and choked on water, so your consciousness has been a bit unclear until now. This was clearly an excuse made up for me. But when Guxuan heard this, he directly had the imperial physician come in to check my head. Your prank has gone far enough, stop it already. If Uncle Gu finds out later, watch your hide. Guxuan didn't say anything but looked at the imperial physician who was taking my pulse. How is the Empress? The imperial physician answered with his head lowered. Her Majesty has no major issues. It is just that her head might have been hit when she fell into the water, which is why she has this amnesia symptom. Amnesia, if you've misdiagnosed her, I will have your life. Hearing this, I had no choice but to quickly grab the sleeve of Guxuan's dragon robe and ask in a low voice. Guxuan, have you gone crazy? This is way over the top. I just turned 15 this year. Clearly, I had just rejected Uncle Gu's arranged marriage, went home to sleep, and for unknown reasons ended up in Guanju Palace. Not only did my nemesis say there was something wrong with my head, he even got a bunch of people to say there was something wrong with my head. Question, should I give him a couple of slaps later to wake him up? Oh, no wait, it should be my 2 slaps plus a kick from Uncle Gu. How dare he say there is something wrong with my head, and even dare to wear the dragon robe? Who knew? This guy Guxuan didn't care at all about what I said. He stared at me fixedly, a hint of madness in his eyes. Just like the little wolf my brother raised for me, his low voice still carried a few traces of obsession. It was clearly a June day. Yet I heard a touch of autumn's bleakness in his words. Shen Shikshu. Have you really forgotten? You are not pretending, are you? Looking at the pleading and longing in Guxuan's eyes, I felt somewhat confused. In the end, I could only sit on the couch, patting the back of Guxuan's hands soothingly, trying to comfort him. No way, aren't we sworn enemies? Stop looking at me with those affectionate eyes. From the moment I finished speaking, Guxuan kept staring at me without saying a word. I looked at all the palace maids and eunuchs kneeling on the ground. This scene was truly awkward. I could only poke Xuan's waist. That was his most vulnerable spot. I'd always poke him there whenever we fought. All right, wherever you want me to go with you, I'll go. Stop looking like you are about to fall apart. It is really unsettling to see. The moment I finished speaking, a flash of surprise passed through Zhuxuan's dark eyes. After dismissing everyone, I had the palace maids change me into a golden cloud mist blouse embroidered with phoenixes. Looking at the trailing yellow ancient pattern double butterfly cloud-shaped 1,000 water skirt on me, hiss, isn't this the style of the Empress's clothes? Wearing this to play along with Guxuan's act, she won't blame me, will she? The palace maids draped me in a Bixia Lo peony mist gauze, looking at myself in the full-length bronze mirror, with my hair styled in a towering cloud bun and adorned with 5 phoenixes facing the Sunday pearl hairpin. I felt both familiar and strange for a moment. When Guxuan saw me after I was all dressed up, he quickly stepped forward, took my hand, and led me outside. The man's large hand was dry and warm, holding my hand tightly in his palm. I am still a young girl after all. I felt my face getting slightly warm, and my heart was pounding erratically in my chest. That momentary loss of control made me want to shake off his hand. But he quickly brought me to Rua Palace, where I used to stay during my short visits to the palace. Through the bed curtains, a little girl lay on the couch. Guxuan seemed much calmer. Although he didn't let go of my hand, his tone toward me remained indifferent. Yuanzi will be very happy to see you when she wakes up. I didn't comment. I am such a bundle of joy who wouldn't be happy to see me. At the same time, I keenly sensed that someone was slowly approaching me. I immediately turned around, and the little boy instantly froze, standing there with his hands behind his back, looking at me with a tsundere expression, those big watery eyes blinking and blinking as they looked at me. Oh, my heart is melting. I couldn't help but lean down and pinch his little cheeks, so soft. Wow, Jishuan, he looks exactly like a carbon copy of your tsundere dumb self when you were little, but he looks way cuter than you. This kid looks so much like you. Is he your little imperial brother who got lost outside, or your illegitimate child? Like, I had discovered a new continent. I was just about to ask Guxuan for confirmation, but when I turned my head, I was met with Guxuan's gaze that looked at me like I was an idiot. Shen Shikshu, he is your child hearing this. I stood there frozen stiff as if struck by lightning. Suddenly, the little boy beside me hugged my leg. Does Mother Empress really not want Jinny anymore? Hearing this, I looked at the little boy in front of me and the little girl's face on the bed. The little girl looked exactly like me when I was young. They're really my children. When I realized it was true, my hands and feet went ice cold and I fainted on the spot. When I woke up again, it was already bright daylight. What woke me wasn't my dreams, but the gentleness of the little palace maid Qingyun. Your Highness, it is time to get up. His Majesty will come to dine with you after morning court. My first reaction was to look around, and I soon fell into silence again. I was still in Guanju Palace. This used to be the bedchamber of Gushuan's mother, the Empress. But now the one lying here is me, listening to Qingyun's voice. I didn't want to get up, just staring blankly at the carved canopy of the bed. Until Gushuan came in, I couldn't help but throw my arms around him and started bawling my eyes out. Wow, Gushuan, how did I wake up 5 years older? A whole 5 years, Gushuan, even though we've been sworn enemies since we were kids, considering we've fought each other for so long that we've actually bonded. Let's sign a ceasefire agreement for now. Gushuan held me, his expression complicated. It seems you really did hit your head when you fell into the lotus pond. Hearing him say there was something wrong with my head, I glared at him through gritted teeth. Then I bit his arm hard. Since I was little. Whenever I couldn't beat him, I'd bite him. He stared at me in a daze. The next moment he smiled and held me tightly in his arms. After Gushuan and I finished breakfast together, I wiped my mouth with his sleeve and looked at him. Tell me, what exactly happened in these 5 years? Strangely enough, after Gushuan confirmed that I really had lost my memory, his mood improved considerably. He wasn't always looking gloomy anymore, like I owed him a fortune. Now his lips always carried a faint smile, and he was back to his old tsundere crown prince self. His expression was still as annoying as before, and so was the way he talked. In short, you fell in love with me. Pestered me relentlessly, waited for me at the Eastern Palace Gate every day, confessed your deep feelings, said you couldn't live without me in this lifetime, or else you'd squat at the Palace Gate every day like De Huang. I couldn't resist you, and had no choice but to give in. Then Father Emperor bestowed marriage upon us, and a year after we wed, Father Emperor abdicated to me and went off to enjoy life with Mother Empress. Then we had these 2 little ones. Our son's nickname is Tanzi, his formal name is Gujinyi, our daughter's nickname is Yuanzi. Her formal name is Gujining, but you got tired of the old and chased the new. Stop cherishing me once you had me. Why are these nicknames so dumb? They sound like names for a dog like De Huang. Hearing these 2 kids' nicknames, I couldn't help but complain out loud. That is exactly what I said at the time. But you insisted on giving them these names. As he spoke, he even pretentiously wiped away tears that weren't there, while his backdrop was the 2 little ones beside him calling out Mother Empresses together. Seeing this, I was truly numb. Gushuan, you might as well just tell me straight that I'd lost my mind. How could I possibly beg everyone under the sun to be with you? Hearing my words, Gushuan's face darkened. He shoved both kids into my arms. Then tell me, where did these 2 come from? Gushuan actually used the children to argue back. Look at Tanzi's eyes, they look so much like yours. Never mind, Tanzi. Look at Yuanzi, she is practically carved from the same mold as you. After thinking it over, I blurted out, Aha, Gushuan, you sly fox, you must have forced me. Hearing this, the man's expression instantly turned somewhat unpleasant. I hurriedly tried to smooth things over. Okay, Goose Sly Fox, I was just joking. After a long while, emotions I couldn't understand churned in Gushuan's eyes, but his gaze toward me gradually became intense. Actually, you were the one who forced me. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. I was so scared I covered my food, instinctively retorting. Gushuan glanced at me indifferently. Then do you have evidence to prove otherwise? No, I don't. That is how it is. The witnesses are me, the victim, and these 2 little ones. Me, honestly. I really didn't expect I would end up with this nemesis. If it weren't for the ironclad evidence of these 2 little ones. 5 years ago, I had just come of age, and the entire capital city was saying that Gushuan and I were a match made in heaven, that I would definitely be the crown prince's consort. After all, who knows how many copies of the story about the general's legitimate daughter and the crown prince being childhood sweethearts had been sold in the streets. The people shipping me and my rival Gushuan could hold hands and circle the moat 6 times. But that very night, before the palace banquet began, Gushuan and I launched into a back-and-forth verbal battle, from me saying he was tsundere and overconfident, always wearing a sullen face, and only a bootlicker like De Huang would like him, to him saying I wore a colorful butterfly pleated skirt, totally like a peacock showing off, being delusional. and only a flattering, short-sighted, stupid fox like Xiaobai would hover around me. Dahong is a dog I picked up from the West Vegetable Market, now serving as the guard dog at the Eastern Palace Gate. Xiaobai is a fox kit he hunted from the Eastern Suburb Horse Ranch. Now my beloved pet at the General's Manor. Our verbal sparring didn't stop just because the banquet started. I exposed how he was afraid of the dark as a child, got lost in the traveling palace at night, and cried his eyes out while clinging to me. He revealed how I pretended to be a lady walking with tiny steps, only to keep tripping. We roasted each other all night. As a result, Emperor Uncle Ju and the others started looking at us strangely and immediately decided to bestow a marriage upon us. Hearing about the bestowed marriage, I dropped to my knees with a thud in front of His Majesty, the Emperor, and kowtowed frantically. Uncle Ji, even if all the men in the world turned into Dahong, I still wouldn't fall for Gushuan. If I am with him, I'll be bullied to death. Hearing my words, Gushuan followed right after, Father Emperor. If you want me to marry her, I'd rather become a monk. Just like that, the bestowed marriage matter was dropped. Afterward, we started arguing again over how much we despised each other. I originally thought arguing with Gushuan about this all night would be enough, but 5 years later we argued several more rounds over who forced whom. After Gushuan had Auntie take the children back, he carried me over his shoulder back to the inner chamber. The next day, a sliver of light appeared at the horizon. I lay exhausted on the bed, drifting off to sleep. Meanwhile, Gushuan changed into a bright yellow dragon robe and crown, looking radiant and ready for court. I slowly extended a finger pointing at him, my voice even hoarser than the day I fell into the water. Gu Fox, it is definitely you. Who forced me? Gushuan adjusted his court attire, looking at me with a brilliant smile, sweeping away the gloom of the past 2 days. Strangely, looking at his smile actually made me feel happy, but I didn't know why. Could it just be because I discovered that my future self 5 years later seemed to be doing pretty well? My thoughts wandered, and a little palace maid came over to help me wash up. I looked in the mirror, and my pupils practically shook. Gu Fox is like a big yellow dog. My neck and hands are a complete mess. Gu Fox, you are like a damn dog marking territory. Looking at the well-dressed man before me, I suppressed the urge to go up and slap him. Seeing me so angry, I was about to explode. Gushuan took the comb from the palace maid's hand and began combing my hair stroke by stroke. What is wrong last night, you? Thinking about last night's absurdity, so this is what adult life is like. You, shut up. Seeing my face flush red to my ears. His smile stretched so wide it nearly reached his ears too, and he cheerfully prepared to go to court. Gushuan leisurely let down my hair. I am going to court now. I'll come back after I am done to discuss things with you properly. I don't want to. I immediately refused upon hearing this. He didn't care about my protests at all, pinched my cheek and left. I gritted my teeth as I watched Song Yanshu leave. When I was young, I was always bullied by Gushuan. Now that I've grown up, I am still always being bullied by him. I knew it, marrying him would definitely mean getting bullied. Life is unpredictable. A young girl in her prime suddenly became a married woman and even had 2 kids, catching me completely off guard. I am trying my best to adapt to life 5 years later. According to the little palace maid Qing Yun, my father and mother went traveling with the retired emperor and the others. My brother has already moved the whole family to the frontier with my sister-in-law. Now the general's manor is empty, even though I already knew my parents had such a carefree nature. But hearing that there wasn't a single relative in the entire capital city still made my scalp tingle with that unfamiliar feeling. Qing Yun also told me that I've been the only woman in the harem for all these years. No wonder that Fox Gu takes all his frustrations out on me alone. I thought about it and decided to go to the Eastern Palace today to see my 2 extra kids, Chuanzi and Yuanzi. Chuanzi is the older brother, a bit sundear and cocky. Just like Gushuan when he was little, Yuanzi is the younger sister, lively and adorable, delicately carved like a cute little kitten, just like me when I was little. Their 2 little hands each held one of mine, and I carefully held their little hands, afraid of hurting them. Yuanzi threw herself into my arms. Mother, you've never held me like this before. You are so gentle today. Can it be like this from now on? Yuanzi isn't greedy, just hold me like this once a day. Okay, looking at this little cutie in front of me, I had no idea what the past me had done to make these 2 little ones crave my love so much. but the memories of the past 5 years felt like they were shrouded in a thick fog for me. I couldn't see anything clearly, and as for how to live my future life, I had no clue at all. I was kept busy by the two little treasures until it was time for dinner. After having dinner with them, Yuanzi ran over and hugged me tightly, pressing her chubby little face against mine and nuzzling it. "Mother, will you sleep with Yuanzi tonight? I gave Yuanzi a big smooch on the cheek." "Sure, Mother will hold you while you sleep tonight." After hearing this, the little one snuggled contentedly in my arms. Tuanzi, sitting to the side, looked particularly tsundere. Even though he acted like a proper big brother on the surface, he was still just a little kid, and the anticipation in his eyes was impossible to hide. "Does Tuanzi want Mother to stay with you tonight too?" I asked patiently. When Tuanzi heard this, his face immediately turned red. After I gave him a big kiss, I gathered him into my arms too. He shyly curled up in my arms, still acting tsundere, saying he was only willing to sleep with me to keep his little sister company. I was about to take them to wash up and go to bed, amused. But the moment I turned around, I was pulled into someone's arms and kissed on the forehead. I was startled and looked up to see it was Gushuan, whom I had stood up. My face instantly flushed red, and I hurriedly pushed him away. "Gushuan, watch yourself. There are two little ones here, hearing my words." Gushuan showed no embarrassment at all, and even kissed my cheek again. "My esteemed Her Majesty the Empress, we are husband and wife. Our affection is to give the children a warm family atmosphere, and besides, keeping me company is your duty as the Empress." I gritted my teeth and said, "You smooth talker, you are twisting logic." Gushuan looked at me with a smile in his eyes, the corners of his lips nearly reaching the back of his head. Could it be that the Empress feels she is at a loss being kissed by me? "Then you are more than welcome to kiss me back. I don't mind at all," looking at that infuriatingly smug expression. I wanted nothing more than to bite him a couple of times. Our eyes met, looking at those rippling eyes swirling with obscure emotions. Exactly like last night, this guy wants to bully me again. My heart suddenly skipped a beat, the same person and the same infuriating attitude as before. Thinking of this, I actually calmed down completely. 5 years later, it doesn't seem that scary after all. At least this guy hasn't changed, still asking for a beating. "Didn't you say back then that you'd rather become a monk than marry me?" While Gushuan was eating dinner alone, I sat beside him and asked, "Yes, so what? Then why did you still marry me?" I asked subconsciously, and when the man glanced at me, I suddenly remembered that I couldn't win against this guy anymore, so I immediately changed my tune. "Did you belatedly realize that you had fallen in love with me, and deeply at that? 5 years ago, I had never been in such a pathetic state in front of Gushuan, my sworn rival. I felt somewhat unwilling to accept that I had just entered the palace like this. Don't I have my own ideals and ambitions? How come I didn't become a female general? Ever since I could walk, I loved wielding swords and spears. My marksmanship was quite well known in the army. Although I couldn't beat Gushuan, my physique was top-notch. It shouldn't have come to this, where I can only be an empress now." "No, your ambitions changed," Gushuan said flatly. "Changed to what?" The man suddenly raised his head, looked at me affectionately, and uttered one word without even blushing or his heart skipping a beat. Me, when I first heard it, I was stunned for a few seconds. Once I realized what he was saying, I immediately demonstrated my martial arts skills from back in the day. That night, the bed in the inner chamber of the Eastern Palace was a bit crowded. I held Yuanzi in my arms and cuddled Tuanzi, while Gushuan slept alone on the edge of the bed. I told him to leave, but he claimed it was to cultivate our feelings and stubbornly stayed here. "You said your father, the Emperor, would definitely like this 5 Phoenix Rising Sunday spear." "Right. Mother, are you sure it is not you who likes it? Your eyes are already sparkling with golden light." There was a hint of helplessness in Tuanzi's tone. I couldn't put down the long spear in my hands, turning it over and over, touching every inch of it. Hearing this, I immediately refuted with righteous indignation. "Nonsense. It is your father, the Emperor, who wants it. That is why he had me come here to pick one out." Tuanzi, this little one, was covered in black lines upon hearing this, just as I raised the spear tip, preparing to show my little one what it means for a spear to strike like a swimming dragon. I accidentally knocked over the rack next to the armory. As I instinctively rushed to protect Tuanzi beside me, a slender figure stepped forward and shielded my back. He wore the shadow garb of the hidden dragon guard, with a black mask covering his face, revealing only a pair of sharp eyes. After a series of clattering sounds, I looked at the mess on the ground and hurriedly thanked the man, but unexpectedly he moved even closer to me. Shuar, didn't you say you wanted to leave this place with me? Hearing this, my face was full of question marks. Dude, who are you? The man's sharp eyes looked at me, actually carrying a hint of deep affection. He didn't answer my question, but instead talked to himself. Shuar, have you really lost your memory, or is this just a temporary measure? The two of us standing like this was really quite awkward. At the same time, Tuanzi, having come to her senses, tugged at my sleeve. Mother, seeing that something was off, that strange man grabbed me and said, "Tonight at the hour of high, I'll wait for you at the usual place." As soon as he finished speaking, he vanished in a flash, leaving me standing there completely dumbfounded. Oh my god, could it be that 5 years later, not only am I married to my nemesis Gushuan with 2 kids, but I've also made him a cuckold? Oh my god, what kind of trashy soap opera plot is this? An amnesiac female lead, a devoted emperor, a mysterious old flame. This love triangle showdown setup is absolutely insane, and this Qianlong guard guy comes up calling me sure this and sure that, and wants to meet at some usual place. Girl, you are playing with fire here. If His Majesty, the Emperor Jiyu, finds out, he is gonna explode on the spot. I can already smell the bloodbath coming. Let me grab my popcorn and watch this drama unfold. I think there must be some misunderstanding here. Even though I've lost my memory, I firmly believe, on my honor, I am definitely not the type of person who would get involved with another man. Unless that bastard Jushuan deeply hurt me, then I must have done it just to get revenge on him. I took Tuanzi back to Guangzhou Palace, and while Gushuan hadn't returned yet, I turned the entire Guangzhou Palace upside down, including my dowry. All I found was a jade pendant engraved with the character Yao, and a locked sandalwood box. Other than that, I didn't find any other information about that strange man. When asked about the origin of the jade pendant and the locked box, that group of palace maids and eunuchs claimed to know nothing. When pressed further, they knelt down trembling like quails. I have no idea how I could have any connection with someone from the Hidden Dragon Guard. The Hidden Dragon Guard has been the dedicated protectors of the Emperor and Crown Prince throughout the dynasties. As for that locked sandalwood box, Qing Yun said, I brought it from the General's manor. The key is with His Majesty the Emperor, and normally it is not allowed to be opened. At this point, I pieced together the whole story in my head. Most likely, after marrying Gushuan, he grew tired of me and chased after new interests, revealing all his terrible behavior. Not only did he want to tie me down with a child and make me give up my dream of becoming a female general, forcing me to be nothing but a bitter, overworked palace wife. He also kept my valuable dowry locked away tight, not giving me a single coin, trapping me firmly in the depths of the palace. So that is why I was feeling so miserable and took the chance to find a young, handsome hidden dragon guard to get back at Gushuan. I even wanted to run away with this hidden dragon guard. It is just that I accidentally fell into the lotus pond and suddenly lost my memory, disrupting everything. In the evening, I sat on the chaise lounge with my eyes half closed. Gushuan came back after handling state affairs, saw my expression was off, and tentatively asked, "Did you happen to see someone you shouldn't have today?" Oh boy, time to shift the blame quick. I immediately stood up and confronted him. Gu, you sly fox. Did you send someone to secretly follow me? Seeing me angry, Gushuan's tone softened for once. They're just shadow guards, you've had incidents before. I am just worried. Excuses, pure excuses. I stretched out my hand. Give me the key to the sandalwood box. The things inside are mine. The moment the sandalwood box was mentioned, Jushuan's expression suddenly changed. Shikshu Chuanzi and Yuanzi are both here. Don't scare them. He lowered his voice and said, then put his arm around me and led me into the inner chamber. I thought he would explain once we were inside. But the moment I stepped through the door of the inner chamber, I was pressed onto the couch by the man. Click the palace maids outside very tactfully closed the door. Only a few dim palace lamps were lit in the inner chamber, and it was silent all around. I could even hear my own heart pounding. Gushuan's large hand caressed my face. His eyes looking at me were pitch black. He lowered his head and slowly moved closer to my face, so close that I thought he was going to kiss me. But this guy didn't kiss me. Instead, he bit my face. Shen Shikshu, don't ever try to use anything to separate me from you. The distance was so close that I could clearly see the madness churning in the depths of his eyes. I noticed this guy was in a strange state, clearly an arrogant person, yet so fragile I had wanted to say something harsh. But seeing his eyes that looked like they were about to shatter, my momentum inexplicably softened when I opened my mouth. But you can't just tie me down in the inner palace with a child just because you are the emperor. Not only do you not let me fulfill my ambition of becoming a female general, but you also withhold the money in my chest, making me a resentful woman of the inner palace who has to worry about everything. Hearing this, Gushran paused for a moment, then laughed. You really are heartless. Your Majesty the Empress, what matter in the harem has ever made you worry? Cooking and cleaning are done by palace maids and eunuchs. Even going to the imperial garden, you have people carrying your sedan chair, the children are looked after by the nannies and taught by the grand tutor, and there are no other women in the harem to cause you trouble. And withholding your money isn't the key to the palace treasury lying right in your vanity box. All you do every day is admire flowers, play with birds, and feed fish. How are you a resentful woman of the inner palace? As for becoming a female general, you are the one who developed inner demons about that. For the past 5 years, you would feel pain just seeing weapons. I didn't want you to suffer. And that chest. If you want to open it, just open it. I'll have someone send the key tomorrow. The man's voice was low and husky, sounding like he was coaxing me. I lowered my head, not wanting him to see my face, burning red. Oh, I am sorry, so I misunderstood you. But that scoundrel Gushuan didn't seem to intend to let me off. He gently kissed my ear, his murmuring voice so husky it was like he was seducing me. Shishu, please don't leave me again. Okay, I can give you anything you want. Please stay by my side. These confessions instantly made my face explode with redness. I really wanted to bury my head in the blanket. I can't even imagine how Jushuan, who 5 years ago had a cold face toward me every day, acted all high and mighty the moment he opened his mouth, and wouldn't stop until he'd roasted me to death. Evolved into someone who can make me explode with his flirting anytime, anywhere. The man leaned even closer to me, his voice ambiguous. Shy? I am not. I buried my head, my voice muffled. Even your neck is completely red. The man's voice clearly carried a hint of laughter. Hearing that, I instantly raised my head in embarrassed anger, glaring at him. He smiled and made his final conclusion. So my Shishu actually had shy moments too. I was so embarrassed that I clenched my fist wanting to hit him a couple times, but just as I raised my hand, a dart suddenly flew in, whooshing and embedding itself into a pillar in the hall. There was also a note attached to the dart. Jishuan picked up the note. Although he tried to hide it from my sight, I still saw some words written clearly in asterisk asterisk. Number asterisk asterisk black ink on it. Shuar, I've always been waiting for you. Have you forgotten what he did to you? You are my wife. I stared fixedly at Gushuan, hoping he would explain this, but he remained silent. The sky grew darker and darker, his gloomy expression hidden in the night, making it hard to see clearly. We were at a standstill for who knows how long. Just as I was about to ask, Gushuan also spoke up. Don't worry too much, I'll have someone find him. Tomorrow I'll have someone deliver the key to the box to you. With that, he turned and left, didn't give me any room to ask questions. Oh, well, everything's back to square one. Life 5 years later hasn't gotten any easier for me to adapt to. If anything, it is making me feel like I am walking on eggshells. I made up my mind to investigate this matter myself. Up until now, Gushuan only said that person was an assassin and nothing else. I thought he didn't really care about this matter, just like he wasn't worried about that mysterious man at all. But over the next few days, Gushuan's clingy behavior made me realize he wasn't as calm as he appeared. Day 1 of catching the assassin, Gushuan used the excuse of protecting me properly, and ended up staying in Guanju Palace, refusing to leave, preferring to sleep on the chaise lounge all night rather than go. Day 2 of catching the assassin, Gushuan brought me my favorite weapons, the 5 Phoenix Rising Sunday Spear and the Purple Star 7-Star Spear. Day 3 of catching the assassin, Gushuan took me to the training grounds, saying he'd organized a spear battalion for me, so I could come here to train troops whenever I was bored. Day 4, Day 5, only then did I finally understand this arrogant fox Gyu was actually trying to win me over. The Gyu dynasty has allowed the nation of Entu stand for over 100 years, and Gushuan's ascension to the throne not only made this dynasty more stable, but also more vibrant. 5 years ago, the neighboring nation of Hong was still eyeing our country covetously, sending troops to wage war every few days. Now Hong poses no threat to it anymore. I heard from Qingyun earlier that Hong has sent an envoy to establish friendly relations. Now, the gifts Ji Yushuan prepares for me from time to time are one of my few pleasures in the palace. Just as I was looking forward to what Gushuan would prepare for me today, he came to my Guanju palace empty-handed. When he entered, I even carefully looked him over, thinking he was hiding something behind his back to surprise me. But there really was nothing. At this point, I thought his sycophantic behavior like a big yellow dog had come to an end. Unexpectedly, after dinner that evening, he shamelessly squeezed onto my bed. It is already dark outside. Shouldn't the Empress keep me company and give me some sweetness before I could punch him out? The two little ones on the bed caught their shameless Imperial father red-handed. Imperial father is such a grown-up, yet still afraid of the dark. How embarrassing. Yuanzi's soft, glutinous voice rang out. Tuanzi, as the older brother, also timely delivered another blow to their Imperial father. Imperial father looks like he is acting cute and being coquettish. It was rare to see Drushuan's face turning red and then dark from being roasted by kids younger than him. I kindly tried to help him out. Your father has been afraid of the dark since he was little. Back then, when he got lost in the traveling palace, as soon as it got dark, he threw himself into my arms and started crying, so stop teasing him. I looked at the tall man, about 8 feet, sitting on the edge of the bed, looking a bit awkward. I held Yuanzi and glanced at him. Fine, Gushuan, you can come up, but you still have to sleep on the edge of the bed today. Unexpectedly, Gushuan was even more shameless than I thought. He directly had the nanny outside the hall take Tuanzi and Yuanzi to the side chamber. I listened to Tuanzi and Yuanzi's soft voices calling for their mother, but I was pinned on the bed by Gushuan. Gushuan, what exactly do you want to do? Do you want me to forget what that person wrote? Did you do something that hurt me? These past few days, I've been investigating in the palace, but the scope was too large and everything seemed fine. I even sent letters to my family far away asking what exactly happened, but until now, I haven't received any news. Moreover, I've been out of contact with my family for almost 5 years. And my brother was transferred to the border 5 years ago too. Gushuan and I also happened to get married that year. It seems, just as he said, I have inner demons, so whenever I think about the past, I get headaches. What exactly did you do? Did you demote the general's manner to threaten me into marrying you? You are the one who threatens people. Gushuan immediately retorted when he heard this. His reaction was intense, as if I was about to threaten him again. But when I really threatened to leave him, why wouldn't he let me go? This insistent attitude is nothing like the carefree Zhuan I remember. Gushuan lowered his head, seemingly holding back some emotions. I guessed he might not be able to hold back from telling the truth. So I waited patiently. When he raised his head again, his face was red like an idiot. Do you really want to know? I nodded. Gushuan, actually, it is because you loved me without realizing it. So after rejecting the Imperial father's arranged marriage back then, you were always depressed, so you schemed to get me drunk. Hearing this, I was nearly scared out of my wits. Then after we got married, I ascended the throne, and maybe I had too many things to deal with, which made you feel like I was neglecting you, so you went to find a little guard to keep you company. This is my fault, I won't do this anymore, but we are husband and wife after all, and we even have 2 children. You can't go looking for other men anymore. Hearing these words, my world fell into chaos. I felt like there were countless threads tangling in my mind. But in an instant, that question I had always wanted to ask but didn't dare to ask, at this moment I couldn't help but blurt out, "So do you actually like me or not? Shinshikshu, I love you." Now it was my turn to have a face flushed red, even though I had been adapting to life 5 years later for a while. Facing Gushuan, who liked to be straightforward, I still couldn't quite handle it. Soon it would be the farewell banquet that An Kingdom had arranged for the Han Kingdom envoys. Gushuan initially refused to let me attend no matter what, saying my head hadn't fully recovered yet, and attending the banquet would be too tiring. But under my coquettish pleading and repeated assurances, he still brought me along. This banquet was held at Yuanqing Palace as usual. I led Yuanzi together to attend the feast, and looking up, I saw the yellow glazed tile double-eaved hip roof of the palace. By the time I arrived at my seat, the banquet was already about to begin. No matter how pleasant this clear and melodious string and wind music was, after listening to it for so many years, I'd grown tired of it. I couldn't help but yawn, seeing that I was sleepy. Gushuan held my hand under the table and asked if I wanted him to take me and the child back to Guanju Palace to rest. Looking at this boring banquet, I was just about to agree, but then someone suddenly stood up from below and wanted to toast me, wishing Her Majesty the Empress eternal peace. This prince's cup of wine. Surely your majesty won't refuse to drink it. I looked closely and oh my, those sharp eyes, wasn't this the Shanlong guard who blocked the weapon for me that day? How did he transform today into a prince of Han Kingdom? I never expected that the lover I had chosen was actually a prince of an enemy nation. I could guess that the Shanlong guard who didn't get to wait for me wouldn't give up, but I didn't expect that a secret lover like him would dare to come and provoke me directly. He was still dressed in that inconspicuous attire from before, wearing a black, wide-sleeved python robe, his face still covered by a silver half-mask. Yet even the exposed half of his face couldn't hide his handsomeness. After all, he was a prince. His overall presence was impressive, and the foundation of that face was quite good. But once I thought about Gushuan saying he was my secret lover, I could no longer have any improper thoughts about him. Her Majesty the Empress, is it that you are unwilling to accept me, or did someone make you reject me? Before I could respond, this man stared straight at Gushuan beside me. Seeing sparks flying between their gazes, as if war was about to break out, I decided slipping away was the best strategy. This palace has been feeling unwell lately, so I won't drink this cup of wine. I hope everyone has fun, but this palace is really not feeling well, so I'll head back first. After saying that, I left with Yuanzi. He dismissed the palace servants following me. Had the nanny take Yuanzi back to Guanju Palace first and wandered aimlessly through the imperial garden alone, thinking about the passionate gaze the Prince of Han Kingdom directed at me, and those ambiguous words on that piece of paper. Could I have really cuckolded Gushuan? Just as I was getting a headache, suddenly a hand pulled me into an embrace. I looked up and saw it was that Prince of Han Kingdom. Startled, I hurriedly pushed him away, seeing the shock in his eyes. It seemed he had held me like this quite often before. He was about to get handsy with me again, so I quickly dodged and hurried to stand farther away from him. Your Highness, ruining someone else's family is never a good thing. I am the Empress of this nation. Gushuan is my rightful husband. Whatever we had before doesn't count anymore. My attending palace maids will be back soon. You should leave quickly. Mentioning the word husband made me feel somewhat inexplicably shy. But the person before me repeated it mockingly. Gushuan, your husband, and I am the Prince of Han Kingdom. You used to call me Yuan Yao. Sure, you used to hate it when people called you Empress. What is wrong with you? Did that despicable scoundrel Gushuan give you some kind of asterisk, number, asterisk, asterisk? I could only go along with him and said, I lost my memory. In a fit of anger, Song Yuanyao removed his mask, revealing his true appearance, beautiful and refined. Except for a scar on the left side of his face, giving his features a somewhat crazed look, only then did Song Yuanyao understand. Sure, Gushuan is the one who made you suffer. Your parents fleeing far away and your brother being relocated to the northern frontier. It was all Gushuan's doing. If you keep staying here, you'll never be able to see your family for the rest of your life. How is that possible? Uncle Gu and his family have never done anything unjust to my family, I retorted directly. That is because Han Kingdom was invading at the time, and the royal family had to rely on your Shen family's influence to quell the war. Otherwise, how do you explain your parents being completely out of contact for all these years? This information was a bit overwhelming, and though I didn't fully understand it all, it still hit me hard. It is true that I haven't seen my parents for 5 years, not even a single letter. I had nothing to say, but Song Yuanyao kept piling on. Likewise, Gushuan doesn't actually like you either. Back then, when the old emperor arranged your marriage and you both refused, the war between our two nations intensified. Even you went to the battlefield with your father. You wore silver armor and rode a chestnut horse. I spotted you on the battlefield at first glance. I looked at the somewhat unfamiliar face before me. Have I met you before? Of course you have. We fought all night at Tiangxian Gorge. You said that if our countries weren't standing between us, we would have been the best of friends. After I returned, I asked my father, the emperor, for permission. As long as you married me, our two nations could cease fighting and form a lasting alliance. My father agreed, and after exchanging letters with your old emperor, he agreed too. I came to the kingdom of An to seek your hand in marriage. During that time, You took me to see the lanterns of the Central Plains and brought me to the outskirts of the capital to ride horses and hunt. You said you liked me and were willing to be my wife. Hearing all this, I felt like these memories did exist somewhere in my mind. They seemed to be on the verge of breaking through. Then why am I Gushuan's wife now? That is because Gushuan wasn't willing to let you go. He drugged you, and then you two had a child. At that time, you were injured on the battlefield and your body was weak. So you couldn't abort. In the end, you had no choice but to marry him because of the pregnancy. He even tried to kill me to silence me. This scar on my face was left from that time. And you told me yourself that Gushuan would rather become a monk than be with you. In an instant, my head felt like it was about to explode. Before Song Yuanyao said that last sentence, my heart was still frantically making excuses for Gushuan because the person he described was nothing like the Gushuan I had come to know during this time. But after that last sentence, my mind suddenly went blank. That Shen Shikshu who only knows how to play with swords and spears. Who would like her? You want me to marry her. I'd rather become a monk. Gushuan and I were childhood sweethearts. And this was how we always interacted growing up. If he snarked at me once, I'd snark back 10 times. When we first started having romantic feelings, we probably weren't each other's type at all. But even though we didn't like each other, we still got married and even had 2 children. I broke out in a cold sweat for no reason, because I suddenly realized that what Song Yuanyao said might be true. Gushuan really was the kind of person who would do anything when he wasn't willing to accept defeat. I stood frozen in place, unable to move. Song Yuanyao walked over and hugged me. Sure, it is okay, I'll always be by your side. At this moment, Gushuan, who arrived late, came over just in time to see me and Song Yao embracing. Prince Yao, you've entered my imperial garden, holding my wife in your arms. I am very curious to know, is this how guests behave in your country? Gushuan's voice was cold as ice shards. Are you threatening me? Song Yao refused to back down. But Gushuan's next words left his face turning green. I am just worried that if your Han Kingdom starts another war, you'll lose miserably. After a standoff, Song Yuanyao was the first to back down. He whispered in my ear, as long as you want to leave this place, I'll fight him to the end and take you away. With that, he turned and left. In an instant, only Gushuan and I remained in the imperial garden. We looked at each other in silence. After who knows how long, I was about to walk past him when he nervously grabbed my arm. Where are you going? This massive information overload made my already sluggish brain even more sluggish. To check on the children, I said calmly. Gushuan still didn't let go. He spoke with difficulty, his voice somewhat hoarse, as if he was trying hard to restrain something. If you really are the Shen Shikshu from 5 years ago, you would believe me instead of believing his nonsense. Gushuan didn't know that every time he got nervous, his right hand would tremble uncontrollably. He was right. I am the Shen Shikshu from 5 years ago, so my brain was finding 100, 1,000, 10,000 excuses for him. I don't know what he was thinking, but I held Tuanzi and didn't sleep all night. I thought about a lot of things. I know I can't just take Song Yuanyao's word for it. I want to investigate what really happened myself. In the palace, everything I hear is what Gushuan wants me to hear. At first, Gushuan still wanted to talk to me, but seeing that I kept the palace gate tightly shut and refused to see him, he stopped trying later. Maybe he just gave up on our relationship, so he didn't come looking for me anymore. So I secretly left the palace through the dog hole that De Huang left behind when I was little. I only said goodbye to Tuanzi and Yuanzi. You rode my horse back to the general's manor first. I **** into the old residence of the general's manor. No one lives there anymore, but you can tell someone still comes by monthly to tidy up. I opened the door to my bedroom and started searching for my diary. Soon enough, I found my diary from 5 years ago in a hidden compartment under my bed. The diary already showed signs of age. I opened it and started reading. The obsession from my youth became reality at this moment. So it turns out 5 years ago, I was briefly a female general, and I really did have someone I liked, and that person really was Song Yuanyao, who I got to know through fighting on the battlefield. After the imperial marriage decree was rejected, everyone said Gushuan already had someone in his heart, and that Gushuan looked down on me, a woman who only knew how to wield swords and spears. So after I rejected the marriage decree, I resolutely followed my father to war, shining brightly in the military camp, even attracting the affection of an enemy nation's prince. But Gushran, unwilling to accept this, schemed to have me spend a scandalous night with him, and I ended up pregnant. This caused the relationship between me and Gushran to deteriorate for a while, turning from our previous bickering into genuine mutual torment. Those involved are confused, while bystanders see clearly. It is like I experienced the events in the diary without experiencing the details of the past. This gives me an unusual sense of calm right now. I somewhat disagree with some of my statements from back then, because Gushran was right 5 years ago. Gushran and Shen Shikshu were always each other's strongest support, so I need to start investigating from when Gushran set me up. I went to find Linlo, who was a good friend of mine and Gushran's back then, with my questions. I mentioned in my diary that at a palace banquet, I overheard a conversation between Linlo and Gushran. If you like her, why don't you confess? She is too timid. I am afraid I'd scare her off. Want me to help you out? Bro's got some good stuff here. Scram. Ladder. After that absurd night between me and Gushran, I was convinced that Gushran wasn't willing to let me go. When Linlo saw me, he didn't even know where to put his hands. Her Majesty the Empress. I ignored that title and told him to sit down first. I only have one question for coming here. That night between me and Gushran, did you really give Gushran some special drug back then? Linlo was stunned when he heard this and said anxiously, "Holy crap, Shen Shikshu. Since you came to ask me, can't you trust me? I really didn't give that stuff to Bosku. You and Bosku grew up together. Don't you know what kind of person he is?" After hearing what he said next, my heart that had just settled down was lifted up again. The one who drugged you was that bastard from Hong Country next door. When you were drugged, it was Bosku who saved you with his own body. Shen Shikshu, you can't just abandon him after having your way. All right, you can shut up now, I said with a red face, telling him to shut up quickly. I remember back then, didn't he have a timid girl he liked? Do you have any clues? Huh? Bosku has been around you since childhood, bickering with you day after day. No young lady from any family ever got any special treatment. Oh, right. I remember Bosku wrote quite a few letters back then. But it seems none of them were ever sent out, all kept at the bottom of a chest. To be honest, all of us close friends thought Bosku definitely liked you, but you didn't believe it. Not only did you refuse the imperial marriage arrangement, you even went to the battlefield, and after that you were completely bewitched by that prince from Hong Country. Seeing that the final mystery was about to be solved, I had no interest in listening to his nonsense. After a few more words, I left directly. I crawled back through the dog hole again. I ran all the way back to Guangzhou Palace and used the key Xuan gave me to open that sandalwood chest. When I opened it, my hands were trembling. I was afraid that what was inside was what I thought it would be, then our 5 years of tormenting each other would be nothing but a joke. But I was even more afraid it wasn't opening the chest. I saw hundreds of thick letters inside. Shen Shikshu, are you an idiot? You can't even tell that I like her? They all say this crown prince is the smartest in the world, the most handsome in the world. Why doesn't she like me? Why doesn't she like me? Why doesn't she like me? I am so done. Why did this idiot reject the imperial marriage bestowed by Father Emperor? I begged Father Emperor for this. I am so mad. So mad I became a monk. Shen Shikshu, now you won't have a husband? Shen Shikshu actually went to the battlefield to avoid me. The first day without her, I miss her. The second day without Shen Shikshu, I miss her. Shen Shikshu hasn't returned to the capital yet. But the enemy country's emperor's letter requesting a marriage alliance arrived first. That old man's son actually wants to marry Shen Shikshu. Dream on, don't even think about it. Shen Shikshu returned to the capital. She seems to have lost a lot of weight, and I heard she was injured. I secretly went to see her, but she kept looking at that ugly prince from Hong Kingdom the whole time and didn't even notice me. Angry Shen Shikshu. I want to marry you. You can only be my wife. I didn't tell you because I was afraid of scaring you away, idiot. Shen Shikshu. All my midnight dreams are filled with you. I'm dead. What kind of ultimate B to he reversal is this? Emperor Yu Tsundere wrote 100 love letters but didn't dare send them, and why don't you like me? Asked 3 times in a row. Are you a broken record? Also, every midnight dream is filled with you. Bro, you are being way too obvious with that. I am now seriously suspecting those 2 kids were dreamed up by you like this. I am going crazy shipping this. Childhood sweethearts with mutual secret crushes is amazing. Song Yao Yao, you White Lotus, get lost already. Stop gaslighting our female lead. I plan to rest well tonight, then go talk things through with Gushran the next day. Once everything's out in the open, we can start fresh. The imagination was beautiful. Reality was cruel. When I opened my eyes in Gwangju Palace, I found myself in a side hall of the Eastern Palace. Oh snap. Before I could clear things up first, Gu Xuan went dark side. The side hall was pitch black, with only a few scattered flames. This was a place we wouldn't even come to when playing hide and seek as kids. Yet Gu Xuan locked me up here. Gu Xuan stood not far from me when I raised my hand after waking up. I heard the sound of iron chains clashing. Gu Xuan walked toward me holding the chains. He had turned back into how he looked when I first met him, like the little wolf I raised with that crazy look, ready to pounce at the slightest provocation. His bright yellow dragon robe was somewhat disheveled, perhaps not changed for several days already. There were also faint dark circles under his eyes. The man sat beside me, raising his hand to gently caress my cheek. Shikshu, you've always been mine, but why are there always clueless people trying to take you away from me? I just quietly looked at him. He suddenly leaned in and kissed my lips, and when he pulled away, he bit me. Of course, I wouldn't let him off easy. In just a moment, I flipped over and pinned him beneath me. Gu Xuan, do you want to be with me forever? Hearing my words, his eyes trembled slightly, and one hand instinctively held my waist. I shook the chain in my hand, and the next moment, I clasped the chain around his wrist. Instantly, I pressed down on him, the distance between us extremely close, our breaths intertwining. Don't you want this with me? Following my soft, seductive voice, Gu Xuan's breathing gradually became rapid. I lightly hooked my fingertip on his belt. Let me go. I won't leave again, I promise you. I'll stay with you forever. I am your wife. At that moment, the man beneath me's heart was pounding nonstop. But soon, Song Yanchu realized a new problem. Wait, how did you become so like this? Me arms around his neck didn't loosen as I asked. I've read all the letters in the box. Oh, I am a timid idiot. Then what are you, a bold fool? Didn't someone once say that only a dumb fox who loves to flatter like Xiao Bai would like me? Woo-woo. Hearing this, Gu Xuan pinched his voice and imitated Xiao Bai's meowing twice. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry, and asked the last question. The one you've liked has always been only me, right? Gu Fox, it has always been only you. Silly Shishu bestowed marriage official meaning. Bestowed marriage was a system in ancient China where the emperor designated marriage partners for officials or royal family members. This was a manifestation of imperial power, and those who received such bestowals usually couldn't refuse. Otherwise, it would be considered defying an imperial decree. Bestowed marriages were often used for political alliances, consolidating power, or winning over important ministers, reflecting the lack of autonomy in marriages during feudal society. Jade's take, to put it bluntly, this was ancient China's ultimate arranged marriage plus version. When the old emperor thought you two were a good match, he'd just drop an imperial edict, I bestow upon you two to marry. No refusals allowed. This move was basically the sealing of forced matchmaking. Modern people can say no to blind dates. But ancient people who received imperial marriage bestowals basically got your marriage, my decision. But then again, these two goofballs in our story managed to refuse the marriage on the spot and walk away unscathed, which is basically activating the defy the decree without dying cheat code. Gu Xuan, you little schemer, turns out the bestowed marriage was something you requested yourself, and when you got rejected, you still acted innocent. TSK. When it comes to scheming, I only bow to you.